Hi, everyone. Um, we are presenting our behavior change replication project on Curdy and Dallery 2013 for section SPCE 611. I'm Stephanie Marshall, and my partner is Lauren Lippard. So an overview of our article is by Curdy and Dallery, written in 2013. It's about internet-based contingency management, increasing walking in sedentary adults. The purpose of the study is to increase walking in sedentary adults. It was set in an office. There were 6 participants, 5 of which were female and 1 was male. Their ages ranged in 50 to 71 years old, making the median 59 years old, and everyone in the study was Caucasian. Now, our literature review. So Ogden and his colleagues examined the most recent national estimates and trends in prevalence of childhood and adult obesity in the United States. They determined that 17% of youth in America are obese, 35% of adults in America are obese. Overall, there's been no significant change since the 2003 to 2004 study, and obesity continues to remain a high and prevalent issue in the USA. And how they determined this was they used a measurement using the recumbent length of 9,120 participants in 2011 to 2012 in a national health and nutrition examination survey. To build off that, Green and his colleagues examined and evaluated the effect of 3 behavioral interventions to reduce prolonged sitting among office workers. So similar to the previous, our original experiment, the setting is in an office. It used a single subject design across 3 female office workers. They graphed it using a concurrent multiple baseline design across participants. The dependent variable is the number of episodes or bouts of prolonged sitting that were more than 30 minutes per the workday. In the baseline, the participants wore an actigraph accelerometer to measure the physical activity throughout the workday. Phase 1, the examiners read a script to the participants outlining the health risks of remaining sedentary throughout the workday. Specifically, the experimenter told the participants that prolonged sitting increases the risk for obesity, diabetes, and other health problems. Participants were instructed to take short breaks of light walking every 30 minutes to increase health benefits. In the second phase, Green and his colleagues introduced tactile prompting using a watch that vibrated every 30 minutes that also had a visual prompt that told them to stand up. The participants were instructed to stand up every time that it vibrated. Phase 3, participants were given feedback on their bouts of sitting via email at 8 o'clock every morning. So, for example, they would receive an email that said, "You averaged about 6 bouts of sitting yesterday." The emails also prompted participants to set personal goals for themselves and send them to the experimenter via email. The results of this study was the mean duration of prolonged sitting decreased across all the participants during the intervention phases relative to the original baseline. All right. Hussey in 2013 explored the effects of the incentive-based physical activity of fitness in 6 and 12-year-old children. This was set in a hospital and communities of Singapore, and it used 251 healthy neurotypical children that age ranged in about 6 to 12 years old. So the intervention, they used education pamphlets to give information to the participants of locations that they can have structured weekend outdoor events. The children were given a pedometer, which was open, And as the incentive, each child that logged an average of at least 8,000 steps per day were given a voucher for about $30 at the end of each month. Children were also entered into a lottery for $120 if they met their step goal and attended at least 2 of the recommended weekend activities. The control group continued their daily activities and their pedometers were closed. The results of this experiment were at the end of the 9-month program, the mean number of steps per day were significantly more than the intervention group by about 893 steps. 24% of the intervention group reached the target of 8,000 steps per day, and 2% of the control group reached the target of 8,000 steps per day. Duvier and his colleagues investigated whether substituting sitting with standing and self-perceived light walking in the free living conditions would improve cardiometabolic metabolitic risk factors, mood, and cognition in overall overweight and obese adults. So he he and his colleagues said that a sedentary lifestyle has been associated with increased risk of type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and premature mortality. They gathered a group of 24 adults that aged 30 to 40 years old with the body mass index between 25 and 35 kilograms. There were 13 men and 11 women in this study. To assess their physical activity, they also used the accelerometer, which was used to discriminate between time spent inactive and time spent standing and walking. This also measured step count. The intervention, all participants were instructed to follow a 2-activity regime in free living conditions lasting 4 days each. The conditions were sit and sit less. Sit, participants were restricted to walking and standing for about an hour a day each, spending the remainder of the time sitting. Sit less, participants were instructed to substitute at least 7 hours of the day sitting with 4 hours of self-perceived light walking and 3 hours of standing to interrupt the sitting every 30 minutes to decrease the walking bouts. The results that they found were cholesterol was lower following the sit less versus the sit intervention. Blood pressure was lower after the sit less regime was implemented. Female subjects were reported to have performed higher in alertness after the sit less regime. There were no significant difference in memory or executive functioning or sleep between the regimes. During active regime, time spent sitting was successfully altered in accordance to the protocol, so the intervention worked. Sedentary bouts were less than 30 minutes, and they were significantly lower during the sit less regime. And reducing sitting time in free living conditions markedly improved insulin sensitivity, circulating lipids, and blood pressure. Substituting sitting and standing self-perceived light walking is an effective strategy to improve cardiometabolic risk factors in overweight and obese subjects, according to Duvier and his colleagues in 2017. Klein and their colleagues reviewed and examined the structure of change in criterion design to date to identify and implement the best practice for future use. So, as most of us know, the changing criterion design, CCD, utilizes stepwise benchmarks for manipulating a dimension, whether it be accuracy, frequency, duration, latency, or magnitude of a single behavior already present in an individual's repertoire. The utility of the change in criterion design as a behavior change agent is evident. It is flexible design that can be used with any population on a diverse range of behaviors in a variety of settings while maintaining adequate experimental control. What Klein and colleagues did was they took 906 individuals who participated in CCD research. The therapist was defined as an individual responsible for implementing the contingency. Therefore, the therapist could be parent, teacher, staff, therapist, peer, or any other agency. The settings was across schools, hospital, clinics, work, and other institutions. And the target behavior and characteristics were the direction increasing or decreasing, the dimension, or the behavior type, which could fall under academic, physical, sport, communicative, habitual, medical, and compliance. According to Klein and colleagues in 2017, the majority of the studies use a simple A-B design with a small percentage using baseline only. A reversal AB-AB and a withdrawal ABA and other designs were used to review for this study. They reviewed 106 articles. Within the articles, there was 267 changing criterion design graphs, and 57 different journals were reviewed. Approximately 25% of the data reviewed met all the requirements necessary for adequate control. This shows lack of understanding of the science and the changing criterion design. According to Klein and colleagues, specifically, most studies lacked variation in phase magnitude and did not compensate with a reversal, lacked variation in phase length, or implemented 2 or fewer changes in the criterion, while some restricted responding so that criterion were forcibly met or could not exceed the criterion. Take care and use best practice when using the change in criterion design. Now for our replication of the original study.
Hi, I'm Lauren Lippart. I'm the other person who is on this project. So I'm going to go through our project and everything that we did during the replication. So the participants in our study were myself, a 26-year-old female who lives in Denver, Colorado, as well as Stephanie, a 32-year-old female who lives in Chicago, Illinois. During the study, each participant was expected to wear a Fitbit throughout their daily routine. The Fitbit would be worn when participants stepped out of bed and throughout the day until they got back into bed to go to sleep. The setting includes, but is not limited to, each participant's place of work, home, fitness center, car, stores, etc. The materials that we needed for our replication was a Fitbit, and the Fitbit was used to measure the number of steps each participant took each day, as well as a fitness log. And in the log, what we did was record the different activities that we engaged in each day, as well as the date and the number of steps. Our behavioral definition is steps are defined as lifting your foot above the ground 6 inches and then putting it back on the ground in a manner that moves the person to a new space, followed by an alternating foot. An example of a step is Stephanie walking forward 1 pace. A non-example of a step is Lauren lifting her foot into the air to look at gum on her shoe and then placing her foot back in a different spot. Data collection. For this study, a frequency data collection method was used. Participants were expected to begin collecting data or wearing their Fitbit from the moment they put their first foot on the ground until the moment they got back into bed to go to sleep. Once in bed, participants would record the number of steps they took per day according to their Fitbit, as well as a list of activities that they engaged in their fitness log. Data collection was done the same way for both the baseline phase and the treatment phase. The study that we modeled hours after included screening surveys in order to choose who would be eligible to be a participant. For the purpose of our study, we did not administer this screener survey because we knew each of us would be participants in the study in order to follow the project rubric provided by Course Spec 611 at Ball State University. Our design, our behavior replication was a single subject research design with changing criterion. We used this design in order to determine if a functional relationship exists between the amount of steps taken each day and self-monitoring through the use of a Fitbit. Our baseline, this experiment will use both participants in the baseline phase. The participants will wear their Fitbit from the time they wake up until the time they go to sleep. The participants will keep their Fitbit on during the course of their day to track their step count in the natural environment. The Fitbit will track the amount of steps during the phase via an app. During the treatment phase, this experiment will use a change in criterion designed to set the step goals. The participants will assess their step goals in 5-day blocks. The participants will meet or exceed their goals for 3 consecutive days. After the step goal has been met or exceeded for the 3 days, the step count will be increased by 1,000 steps. Participants are allowed to rest 2 days in which their daily step activity will not be monitored, Saturdays and Sundays. IOA. The participants of this replication study will download a video of their step count by midnight every day for pre-selected dates. Using YouTube, the participants will hold the step display in front of the webcam or phone camera for several seconds. Type the total in a result box and click Post Video. Total count IOA will be used, which is smaller count divided by the larger count times 100. Treatment integrity. The following barriers to treatment integrity existed for this replication project. Loss of collected data due to technology dying and needing to be recharged. Fitbit is not worn consistently throughout the day, i.e. taken off for swimming, forgot to put on right away in the morning, got up to go get a drink of water after Fitbit was put on the charger for the night, or Fitbit miscalculates steps. So this is my graph of the different baseline and treatment phases. I was able to do 2 treatment phases and start my 3rd one, but wasn't able to complete it. In my baseline, the mean steps I took was 8,981. And you can see my ranges right there, 6,724 to 12,481. I started my treatment phase at 10,000 steps. And during that phase, it took me 4 days to reach 3 consecutive days where I had 10,000 steps with a mean of 11,409.75. During my 3rd criterion change, I bumped it up another 1,000 steps to 11,000. And that time it took me quite a bit longer, as you can see by my graph and how many sessions it was taking. The mean when I finally reached it was 11,514. And then in my 4th and final criterion change, it was bumped up another 1,000 steps and I got to 12,000. And in this phase, the first 2 date sessions that I had, I was able to reach this goal. So I think that continuing it further, I might be able to reach this quicker. Here's Stephanie's graphs. She was also able to do 3 different criterion changes. And you can see her baseline. She had some pretty big significant changes from her highest step to her lowest, so her range. The mean for her baseline was 4,378 steps. So then she moved over and she had for her first treatment phase, her criterion was set at 4,500 steps. And she was able to reach that within 3 sessions. So then she bumped up her criteria to 5,500 steps. And again, in 3 consecutive sessions, she was able to reach this goal. So she continued and moved hers up further to 6,500 steps. And again, she was able to reach this within the first 3 sessions. So hers, she was able to more quickly reach her goals than I was. In conclusion, according to the data collected by each participant, one can see that both participants' steps increased throughout the intervention of self-monitoring. As you can see from the graphs, Stephanie was able to reach each criterion more quickly by reaching her goal in 3 consecutive sessions during each criterion phase. Lauren reached her criterion goal at a slower pace. During criterion 10,000, it took Lauren 4 sessions to consecutively reach her 3 days in a row. During criterion 11,000, it took Lauren 8 sessions in order to consecutively reach her goal in 3 days. The last goal Lauren set was criterion 12,000. This phase was not completed due to lack of time. The calculated IOA for our behavior replication project was 90% as calculated through 10 pre-selected dates recorded via Google Hangouts.
So, our limitations. According to Cooper, Heron, and Heward in second edition, limitations of the changing criterion design are that the target behavior must already be in the subject's repertoire, and that incorporating the necessary features of the design may impede optimal learning rates. Personal limitations that we had with this replication project is time frame. Due to our accelerated course, our group was unable to collect a full set of data required to complete and fully analyze the project. Reinforcement, we were unable to implement the monetary incentive the original study used as reinforcement. Our participants were limited as our original study included 6 participants. We were a group of 2. And setting, our original study was recorded at work in an office, and our participants recorded data in a variety of settings, including home, work, errands, or at the gym. Therefore, our life balance was able to interfere with the results. Here is a list of our references that we use to help with our assignment. And here is our group contribution log. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.